I'm listening to an ambient soundtrack. And figuring out ways to ingest um, the rest of my antidepressant. This is acetalopram. It's a little art project that I did. It has Japanese sushi grass, not flowers, because antidepressants just make you balanced and normal. So I made I made it into cocaine-like lines, because just to like a homage. The remainder, because sometimes people will be buying cocaine and it's like anything in there. Like it could be this stuff. Nobody knows. I use one of these pill reminders. And I have to use one of these pill reminders because I have a bad memory because of my post-traumatic stress disorder. And I got one of these so that I would look at it. But then I started missing. When I did miss a day once, then it started to look like Connect 4. and then it was just like, I don't know. It became a mess. Even though, so I often try to create systems of organization and then they don't work. So then this powder residue is what's left in some of these cases, because like I'm throwing this case around against the sink and whatnot. But the irony of this is like you can't do drugs when you are taking antidepressants. You can't even drink alcohol. So it's like the first time that I've had a actual completely sober New Year's Eve, for example. And I was up and about on New Year's Day. And today is the first live stream that we're gonna do, and I wanted to talk about what I discovered doing some little research for, how do I share screen? A window capture. Okay. Window capture. Looks like real drugs, huh? I'm getting my prescription, actually, I guess part of me is like I'm always trying to create art because that helps me to become comfortable with who I am. Most of my artwork has pictures of me in it, and because I felt like as a child I wasn't seen to the point where I was almost invisible, I created artwork that reflected, like, was me really trying to discover who I was. And so I think of these videos and making this, little channel as a way for me to be able to, make public my discovery around this stuff. And through my little exploration, maybe people can get inspired or give me some of their experiences, their advice. It's raining really hard in Ema Beach in Hawaii, in Oahu, Hawaii. That's where I am. Please let me know where you are. And yeah. So today I felt like, oh man, maybe she's not a service animal. Maybe I'm not really, doing this right. So there's a lot of depression and doubt and imposter syndrome that's coming in today. And then it's so weird because when I started this channel, I was like, oh yeah, I have every right to, do everything. And then today we took the bus and everything. So I have all day to think about it. But I don't know, the doubt came in because I called I've been looking through. So here's what I want to do. Together we'll read some of the laws. These are federal laws. I don't think they scroll down though. Let's see if it does. Oh, it does. Okay. So I'm going to try my best, okay? Everything is a work in progress. Everything is just basically I'm doing... Oh, I don't want my email to be shown. Wait. What's happening there? No, I wanted the ADA. There. Okay, where can a service animal go? There we go. Okay. How do you know if the service animal is really a service animal and not just a pet? And these are the two questions that are the legal rights of people within the Americans with Disabilities Act. Is the animal required because of a disability, and what work or task has the animal been trained to perform? And then the thing that applies to what I'm trying to do, which is what I want to make this discussion about, because you could go on and on about, even little horses and stuff. What about miniature horses? So they changed this, I believe. I don't know. I heard that miniature horses are... Okay, so miniature horses are not a service animal. But they are allowed to bring in... they're not considered a service animal, but they're allowed on the premises for the benefit of the individual with a disability. So they have to make sure that the animal is housebroken, it's under the owner's control, and the facility can accommodate the miniature horse's type, say, size and weight. So probably they made it not a service animal so that the owner of the miniature horse can ask, ahead of time. They can just put in that small provision, because with a service animal you don't have to ask, and you could just bring your dog. So there's that. Let me see. Am I recording? Okay. I'm recording now. Okay, is the animal required because of a disability? What work or task has the animal been trained to perform? Oh yeah. Okay, so we're not even streaming on YouTube because I didn't press live. Oh, is it really live? Oh, it is going live. Okay, so it is live. Huh. Okay, let's go back to the window then. I believe everything is healthy. Okay, window. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's see. Why do I have that? Oh yeah. Okay, with that, I was looking at the ADA requirements. Okay. So someday I want to have this business with miniature horses and comfort animals. Um, so this one, can I take my service animal to work? And then it said maybe. Title 1 of the ADA covers employment. Under 1, service animals are considered a reasonable accommodation. Reasonable accommodations must be requested by the person with a disability, but the employer is not obligated to provide the reasonable accommodation. So I asked the ADA about independent contractor work. So we're now looking at this part. Can I take my service animal to work? And then he said that you are not an employee if you're an independent contractor. So basically, if you're an independent contractor, which is how I run all of my businesses, it's like nobody can actually specify what color shoes you're wearing, as far as, you know, you're not supposed to have other people in the car, but nobody actually checks up when you drive Uber, and they're not allowed to actually, like, act. That's why the mask thing was kind of, how are they going to check if you wore masks? So they have a mask camera, and you have to, just like any kind of gig economy job, you have to use your face camera to prove that it's you. But they don't check up on you exactly because it's independent contracting work. They want to keep their independent contractor status. So I've always done my grocery deliveries also with my service animal, even before she was a service animal, in training. Oh my god, it's raining so hard. So now her status is service animal in training. Service dog in training. SDIT. SDIT. But she could also be classified as an emotional support animal as well. I'm kind of going back and forth between how this process works, because, you know, what I want to, after I go through each of these sections, you can leave your input in the comments below. So I am a worker, and I am trying to do gig economy work because my fight or flight, my anxiety creates the situation that directions and memory, linear memory tasks can be difficult or embarrassing for me to do, so I don't do certain types of jobs. But I needed extra money to have, you know, side income, so I started to deliver groceries. But I always knew that I could never be like a driver, because one of my triggers from my childhood trauma is that my dad used to yell at me in the car, and so things around cars, and I've been in a lot of car accidents, like 5 of them, so cars and people, anger, and, you know, triggers are not a safe combination for me. But if I have my service animal, then I feel more confident to have access to that whole other type of, we're just going to call it employment for simplicity's sake, but to that whole avenue of work. Let's see. It says service animal. Okay, can I take my service animal to work? I'm not scrolling at the right thing. So I also work as a teacher. I teach Japanese, and I'm, you know, teaching from my home, but I'm also about to be a substitute teacher for the district here, and there is a teacher, a vice principal, who has a dog, and she's taken her dog to work because most of the semester is online, and the kids don't turn their cameras on, and the teachers do, but most of it's online in a shortened day. So she did say that it would be fine if I taught from home or brought my dog to work. And so that's really exciting. So that's a nice little secret gift that the pandemic has given us. But I'm all about making Satori a mascot for not having love shame. You know, that's why it says love is my service dog. So what else did I wanted to talk about? Work, employee versus independent contractor, and how the ADA affects that. So then in that case, then you just go to, I'm not an employee of Costco, I am a contractor for a subcontractor of Costco. And then you just kind of go in like very nicely and ask, you know, ask if they'd be willing to be reasonably accommodating. And I think, you know, that day when I had different managers like test out my service dog and tell me to put her on the floor, then I did ask another worker, how can I get the stuff in the cart, you know, without putting the dog in the cart? I can't carry 5 dozen eggs and lead a dog at the same time, you know. She's still a puppy in training. I could tie her to the, it's just, I could tie her. It just seems like the routes, every route that you could take, let me think, what would the professionally trained service dog schools say? They would say you could train the dog to sit beside the cart and then you could go and get the eggs and come back, which is basically what I did. I put her in the cart instead of beside the cart because it's safest for the animal in the cart, because not everybody can see your dog, especially if she's small, you know, like, it's gonna go on and off. It's just like traffic, you know, people aren't gonna see you walking as a pedestrian. And Costco and all those clubs are so much, they're like shopping cart Bangkok. Shopping cart Thailand is what it's like. So just for, I really think of this land as, like, there's ADA laws, but I really think of it as, like, there's a lot of gray area that, you know, you could, and it just depends, you know. Like, I've seen people be assholes on YouTube, and I've seen people be really nice to people. And people have been really nice to me, and people have been, you know, not assholes, but they have tested me. So this section, let me see if we're on the right section. Okay, so there's a whole section on service animals versus emotional support animals. So let me just bring that forward because it seems like it's going to scroll now. So this is a publication that is available on the ADA website, Americans with Disabilities Act. So they say, what are the handler's responsibilities? The animal must be housebroken. Cleaning up does not require you to clean up after the animal. They should be vaccinated. All of that stuff. So check. My, I was going to say horse. My dog follows all those. Is the animal required because of a disability? Yes. And then the work or task is hug. And, but they're not, I mean, are they, and then I asked the ADA today, like, who are they that gets to determine whether or not my task is qualified to be beneficial or required to my disability. And then after kind of a long conversation, he said someone has to complain in order for anything to really happen, basically. So for it to get that far, right? Oh, you are not actually training your dog to task. You're training your dog to be an emotional support animal. You know, as I've looked through all of this, let me see. I hope it's scrolling. No, it doesn't seem to be scrolling. Reaction, responses of others. Allergies and fear of dogs are not valid reasons for denying access or refusing service to people using service animals. So I'm reading all of these laws. This is really what it takes to, you know, you're, as a service dog handler, I feel like we're all activists, and I feel like even emotional support dogs, everybody is gonna face scrutiny from well, I don't know. When I first started out, she was an emotional support dog, and I went around all of the different stores and I asked, is an ESA acceptable in your store? And a lot of people said yes, you know, like they were like, oh, totally, you know. The vitamin shop, Sam's Club has always been super nice to us and just super accommodating to ESAs. And it wasn't until I had to do more jobs, you know, like we get Costco jobs all the time, and like this became a necessity for me to widen the amount of jobs that I could take for my gig, right, for my Instacart job. And so, and that, you know, basically it's like hard for, you know, you do gig economy jobs when you have a disability or when you have a mental illness, because you can stop after certain amounts of time, or if something bad happens, or if you're just having a fried day or something. And I think so little has been done around, you know, studying how, when I've read articles around PTSD and service animals, they are always about, they always are about veterans and service animals, and very little has been done to study CPTSD, for example. And I think what they're doing in prisons, I've heard, is they are taking retired greyhounds and having prisoners who have 10 years or more have service animals, which I think is awesome. I think that that would definitely limit prison violence. I think CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, is complex. And if those prisoners don't have PTSD and CPTSD like me, I'd be very surprised. So I find that her task, Hug, helps me to redirect the fight or flight, redirect obsessive thought patterns, and helps me to redirect it to her so that I'm thinking about love instead of fear. And that's basically the medicine. And this is an experiment for me and for others. And if I just don't think that people are going to be that audacious to make the distinction. And I want to, because I already am unafraid to be needy of love and needy of self-love and understanding, and I want to heal myself, you know, at a rapid rate. So it's almost like I'm creating a therapy dog experiment, everything, an emotional service animal, a therapy dog. Like, this is the same thing, where it's like, this person is stopping you from fight or flight, which is anxiety, but then if you had an official service dog, then you would train the dog to task around, you know, your twitching hand, and then it would just come close to you when your hand is twitching. I mean, there is no real difference. That's a semantic difference. And if people want to make that semantic difference, then they have to ask themselves, why? Why are you doing that? There really isn't a separation between, you know, if someone's actually going to call themselves disabled, then I think that's really what it takes. It's not really about, and people who are more forthcoming about the information and willing to work with managers, I find, you know, I think, like, I'm still, like, trying to work up how to deal with Sam's Club, or if I even have to. I had a little, not a breakdown. I think that it didn't get that far because of my animal, or because I've been working with my service animal for as long as I have. Like, had she not been there, she's like an anchor to me getting home, an anchor to me doing the very next thing. It's like keeping me in the present, which is such a valuable thing for people who deal with disassociation or PTSD. And an interesting thing that happens with having her around, that people are so understanding. Like, basically, when you have a service animal, you are flagging that you have a disability, whereas before you were walking around invisible and trying to not be visible, but probably you were visible. So it's all kind of a new thing, but I think what I was thinking the whole time was like, wow, everybody who's at Sam's Club is so nice to me. And I feel so undeserving of how nice you and understanding everybody's being, you know, like my phone ran out and they were trying to or the woman was like trying to plug my phone into the office. And there was just nothing that could be done because they had to scan the actual order from the phone, and I just wasn't getting enough charge from, and the club was closing and there were only employees in there, and I just felt like all of my triggers were boiling up, like, oh my god, keeping people waiting, ruining everything, running out of time. Those are all things that create like a full meltdown. And then after that, what happens after that is like full exhaustion. And then if you get too many of those, then your body actually has a physical reaction and you can have like soreness in your muscles. But with this, it's not just the dog alone or antidepressants alone, it's the combination of both. Because I think having just a animal to cure or alleviate your CPTSD syndrome symptoms may not work because you don't have the patience. You're not medicated, and medication is like half the battle. Like I'm saying, like I felt that I didn't have an explosion because I was well medicated both times in Costco and in Sam's Club. And I'm really grateful that I have my my service dog to like get me out of situations. And when I say get me out of situations, I really just mean emotional trigger situations that can be worse, that can be in my mind more catastrophic than, it just helps me to exit. It's like an exit strategy, which is what I'm finding. Or it's like it is a comfort animal. And see, I'm like afraid to say those words because of the legal ramifications of, the discrepancy. But what I'm betting on is that it doesn't really matter. And that most people are understanding and believing, my need is valid. So let's try that for our first stream. Oh, what else did I want to talk about? There's a few pages. I did make a phone call to the guy from the ADA. Okay. We were going to look at this page. So we did the employment page. I am dealing with this because I am a worker, and that's how I really got educated with service animals, emotional support animals. I just felt like it was really necessary for me to get this dog. I didn't even know that it was going to be an ESA or a service dog. I had no idea. Let's see. My therapist first suggested that she become an ESA and then wrote me a letter for her to be an ESA. And then as time grew and I needed to get more access as a worker to different places, I needed to declare her a service animal because she couldn't be left at home, and I needed the dog, right? So I need the dog to be with me. She's a puppy. She can't be left alone. There is nobody else responsible for me except me, if that makes sense. So that's also a bias that people don't understand. You know, people live in isolation and they need, you know, so if you can imagine that someone was, you know, I wasn't last year, but I would imagine that it would be great to have a psychological service animal prescribed to someone who had tried to commit suicide for 1 year, to be around that person for the entire year, because it's really a happy anchor. And you have to, you know, get the right dog, obviously, who is going to be like really affectionate and loving and loyal. Like my dog, I just totally scored, you know, like I found the perfect dog for my personality and, you know, my illness. And it's just been really healing, all of it. It's the process of parenting, it's the process of actually advocating for your animal as well. So that's the part that makes you grow up, and that's the part that makes you really land in your disability, because you become like a card carrying person. You know, you have to get on the bus and then you're like, okay, well, right, and then other people are looking at your animal and then you're like, well, I'm not gonna put my beloved, you know, we have each other's back, basically. Like, our jobs are to keep each other alive. That's her job, is to keep me alive, and my job is to keep her alive. But she does wear her service jacket like it's a uniform, and she does really well. She knows 43 commands, 5 in Japanese, and I really think that she's a great candidate to be a service dog for me. It takes 1.5 years or 2 years to train your own dog, and I've only had this dog for 3 months, and she knows 43 different words. So what I'm exploring with this journey is accessibility for disabled people, but often disabled people are homeless and disabled people are low income, like I am right now, and so are taking the bus and are needing to do gig economy jobs. You know, on the lower end is what I'm doing, but I also run a business, so it's not like I'm only but I always knew that delivering groceries does pay less than, say, Uber, driving people, but I always knew that because of my disability I can't drive people, because all I need is for someone to like trigger that and then I'll crash a car, you know. So I don't want that. But that was pre-medication, you know. Like I said, like life is really, really different pre-meds, right? So trying to just deal through my whole life with no dog and no medication and just trying to, you know, soothe myself, you know. Like part of CPTSD is emotional triggers. Some people get rage responses, some people get total kind of manic depressive syndrome. Some people get subconscious trances that cause them to do crazy things. They freeze, you know, they can't get themselves home. They engage in risky behavior. So having a dog around helps me to engage in less risk behavior, because she anchors me to a place, to a present, to a time, you know. So if you're in an emotional flashback, you are thinking that you are 7 or you're 8, or you're not thinking, you don't even know, you know, you just right, and it happens fast, and it's out of your control, or you don't even know. So my dad would get these rage responses all the time and yell out of, you know, nowhere, and that he couldn't control it because he didn't know what he had. And I, up until just last year, I didn't know what I had. I didn't know what CPTSD was. So this is all a new journey for me. But I do tell you that the dog is helping. And so I can say with confidence, you know, that I have a right to be in these stores. And so that's why I'm fighting for our... And, you know, I'm not even fighting. I'm just being, like, super, mostly, you know. I'm doing what people say. And, I mean, everybody is sanitizing carts now because of COVID. And 2, I bring, like, a blanket so that I cannot touch the cart. So, everything has changed. Life has changed. And I was ready for it to change. And so, I want to solve a problem for myself and for other people. I want people to not feel shame around needing emotional support, around needing love, around, needing love from their service animal. That love is a service. And I see that, what I really see is that there's a hierarchy between physical disability and mental disability, and I think, or psychological disability, and it just creates more shame for people who have invisible disabilities. Oh, I'm not blind, I don't need a dog. And I really think that you could either bring in a dog or bring in a gun to a place, and if people explored the option, just like in the prison, allowing people to have access to resources of love and not even keep that as a resource from people, then we can start to have a more peaceful universe. I really want, the next step is for me to find out more about the Greyhounds in Prison program. This is my first live. Thank you for watching. Subscribe.